So for question 19, what can you find out about this sequence? And right now we don't know. You think it's a protein sequence, but I could be lying because I can write whatever I want in the description here. I could have written Dr.T, and the sequence is not mine at all. So how do you find out what this does? There's a program that I showed you guys, and I told you that it's a very useful program. And on this news, I had another student that just wrote to me this week. She had an interview to work at an institute, and she's going to be using one of the things is BLAST. So I know, I was just so happy. So, okay, we have, first thing we do is we look, what sequence do I have? So this guy's here, that's amino acid sequence. No, this protein sequence, not nucleotide. And so I don't do this one because, okay, the first one is what sequence I have. The second part of this is what database am I searching. Since I have protein sequence, I either do that or that. And whenever it has to translate, so these two are slower. So normally you want to do whatever is faster first, and if that doesn't work, you do something else. So, but you want to try the fastest approach. So we're going to do BLAST P because I have protein sequence and I put that there. And I could narrow this down to plants, thinking that the label is true. But if I don't know that that label is true, I'm just going to let it look for all the protein sequences, what matches that protein. So I blast that. And then right now it's looking, all right, you were looking for, I don't know, Tupperware that is made out of glass. Let me look for you in my database. So that's kind of what you're doing, but with protein sequence. So while that is doing that, let me see if I can answer anything else. Like if there, okay, that. So, ta-da! So it's most likely a disease resistance protein. I just love these disease resistance genes because that's what I worked with when I was your age. We like to think we're still young. But anyway, they are so useful for agriculture. If some plant is genetically resistant to a disease, you don't have to spray it for that disease. Win-win. And it comes from this plant, or this plant has that sequence. There are other things that could have that sequence too. And how do I know that these are all valid hits? I look at the e-value, I'm like, ooh, 0. I like that. I like really small numbers. So that looks like there are many plants that have that. But let's see what the question is asking. Okay, so most likely confers, wait, am I sharing my screen? Yes. So most likely confers disease resistance to a plant, hooray. There are homologs. So this is me reminding you, what does homolog mean? So I said that sequence that has a common ancestor. And between Arabidopsis and Brassica, so you're like, oh, they are orthologs. And I'll be like, oh, I'm so happy you remember. Is that true? So I go to my BLAST screen and I look for Arabidopsis. And I'm like, oh, that is present in Arabidopsis. How about Brassica? It is too. So there are homologs in both. And in this case, they don't know what it does in Brassica. But this is one example when finding a homolog gives you an educated guess of what the sequence does. So even though they didn't do mutations to see if the plant stops being resistant, they do know that that sequence exists in Brassica. So yes, there are homologs. This one we have to look at the sequence of the plant, the protein, and this one too. How do we answer those? Then we have to go here, graphic summary. And here, let me make it bigger because you guys need to be able to see this. So when we do the graphic summary, it shows you this part that you're familiar with by now, but also shows you this top part here, where it tells you, these things are called motifs. So they're like this sequence that keeps appearing in places. These are the motifs. So it has a leucine-rich repeat. So that is true. What else? Okay, yes. And it has a tau interleukin-1 receptor. Let's see if that is true. What if I click on these guys? On the leucine-rich repeat? Then it's going to tell you it has resistance to Pseudomonas syringae. That's some plant pathogen. And look at that. Here it is. Yes, it does have that. So this question was basically to entice you to click around and find the motifs and find what do those motifs do.